This is the first video for the second week, Module 2. And in this module, we cover so many concepts that I just want to make sure I give a disclaimer that this is an incredibly important week to really pay attention because you really get a broad overview about some of the fundamental aspects and the processes you're going to follow in developing your research proposal. This class and each week is going to build on the week before that, and so it's important that you take the time to really go through and not just watch this video, but make sure that you have the PowerPoint pulled up as well so that you can refer to some of the different videos and links to really get a good understanding about this, and just pause and reflect. Do use a study group if you need to, but the concepts here are really important and everything builds on that. So moving into week 2, then we're talking again about social work research. And we talked about that in the last module, and how research really seeks to try to address some of those thinking errors that people have, and just the different types of popular media they hear. And so social work research really stands out because it's careful and it's deliberate. And so part of what we're talking about then is that deliberate process. What is it that makes it so deliberate? What is it that makes it so careful at making sure that the information is more reliable and more valid than other sources? We're going to go into all the different steps and how research is structured to provide for that reliability and that validity. So one of the first steps in your research proposal is the development of a problem statement, basically what you want to study and why is that worth studying. So I gave you an example so you can kind of see how one researcher might frame their interest. And then as you get into the development of your research question, which is going to come from that problem you identify, then just keep in mind what a research question is. It's basically when you look at it from the perspective of explanatory types of research, which you might remember from the first module, is really looking for to kind of develop and explain relationships between different concepts. Research questions are basically questions that include certain concepts, and it tries to figure out what's the relationship between these two in a certain group of people. So research questions are typically structured in this way. Again, in Module 1 we talked about several different types of research. Explanatory is the type of research where this course is really going to focus on the most, and so I just want to make sure that you understand and that if as you're kind of framing your problems and your interests, your research questions might vary a little bit, but for the explanatory model, it's usually structured in this way. You've got an A, which is usually the intervention or the independent variable, which we'll talk about later. B, which is usually the dependent variable or something that's caused by A, and then you've got the group of people where you're going to observe that. So we'll talk a little bit about how you develop that research question. So here are some of the basic criteria you need to think about. So obviously you want something that's relevant to social work. You need to be able to carry it out. You need to actually be able to observe it. You're not going to ask yourself, is there a God as a research question, because you can't answer that. Or how do people behave 3 generations out when it comes to relationships? You probably aren't going to be able to take that type of research question within your current time and budget. You want to make sure that something's important to the world. Some research questions might be interesting to you personally, but other people may, not care less. There's a lot of research that isn't done just because it's really not socially relevant. And then, of course, it's important that your research question touches, connects with the theory about your problem. So here's just another kind of guideline to think about it, the FINER acronym, which it kind of, talks about some of these same concepts, but it kind of shows you some concepts like, is this going to add anything new? Is this interesting to the community in general? Does it create a lot of ethical issues? And so these are all the types of things you have to consider before you even sit down to draft a research question.